Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Performing and Visual Arts, SOPVA, Certificate in Performing Arts, Theatre Arts, PATHA, OVA 002 Understanding India Art Forms, Block-1 Introduction to Performing Arts, Unit-2 Indian Drama, Inclusive of Dance, 2.1 Introduction. After getting the knowledge of performing arts, let us now move forward and try to understand each of these three arts, drama, dance and music. 12. Let us start with drama. In India we call this art as Natya or Natak. But here arises a confusion. What you see on the stage, and which is very popular, is a version of drama which arose in our country after the influence of the Western concept of drama brought in by the British. The presentation, the dialogue delivery, and above all, the manner of enactment, acting, are all influenced by the Western practices. This influence is seen to a very large extent in the costumes, makeup, even jewelry worn. Now, this is the urban or city-based practice of drama. As soon as you move away from the cities and go towards the smaller towns and villages, the scene changes. So you see very different type of drama. Here you see a distinct flavor of India and Indianness. Some of the facets of the performance may look peculiar or even comic to the city-bred people. The first thing that strikes you is that the stage and its arrangement are totally different. The stage is not the proscenium stage that we see in the sophisticated theatres of the cities. There are no wings, no sophisticated lighting or sound system. More often than not, the performance takes place at some crossroads, courtyards or temple precincts. The costumes are definitely stylized, the faces painted in bright colors. More often than not, the dialogues are delivered in a manner that appears like shouting so very loud. The actors indulge in highly stylized movements and gestures of the body, and every now and then either the actors or some troupe members break out into a song accompanied by local or regional instruments. Even if there is no actual song, the loud and shrill of music continues. Above all, almost all the actors dance. Another characteristic of these presentations is that female roles are usually performed by men. Traditionally, these dramas have a preliminary puja ceremony before the actual play starts. Now a question arises as to how is it that once you put aside the westernized city-based dramas, almost all the regional dramas have common elements? Our country is vast and yet there appears to be a unity in methodology. Indian drama, inclusive of dance, times. To answer this question we will have to travel back to antiquity, almost 2500 years back to the era when our country had started blossoming intellectually and culturally. It is in this era that the legendary sage Bharatha compiled his Natya Shastra science of dramaturgy, which was adapted by almost all the regions of the country. The effects of the dicta of the Natya Shastra are still felt in the non-city theatrical practices in the manner just described. Bharatha had laid down norms for Sanskrit plays which are now recognized as classical plays. Then you have the large mass of regional theatre, and at the end you have the contemporary theatre objectives. After studying this unit you should be able to times understand the relevance of the Natya Shastra, times understand the content of Natya as per the Natya Shastra, and times identify the different components of Natya to point to Natya Shastra. In the Indian tradition, drama is known as Natya. But neither the literary form in which drama is known to us today, nor the stage performance with which we are at present familiar, will fully cover the meaning of the term Natya. It is therefore necessary to fully understand this term and then evaluate its position and influence on the Indian art practice and philosophy. We have IGNOU records of the early beginning of dramatic or theatrical activity in the earliest phase of Indian antiquity, there is no reliable record of its gradual development. This is not surprising considering that this practice is more than 2,200 years old. Our oldest and most authentic evidence of a scientifically arranged dramatic practice starts with the magnificent text Natya-shastra, Science of Dramaturgy, in Sanskrit attributed to the legendary sage Bharatha. The text appears to have been compiled as early as the 5th century BC but has had additions and even interpolations which may be as late as the 2nd century AD. Natya-shastra is to be taken as most authentic not only on account of the almost divine reverence in which Bharatha is held in tradition, but also because the later scholars have only expounded, elucidated and amplified his precepts and principles. In addition, the Natya-shastra is, in actuality, a comprehensive compendium or a workman's manual on nearly all aspects of drama and dramatic production. 2.3 Creation of Natya-shastra. Indian tradition venerates Bharatha as the founder of the science of dramaturgy. He is supposed to have received this art from B. Elena, the god of creation, and produced the first performance of Natya on the occasion of Indira's flag festival. Bharatha's Natya was created by taking some significant details from each of the four Vedas: 1. Pathya or recitative text from the Rig Veda; 2. Sangita or song and melody from the Sama Veda; 3. Abhinay or acting from the Yajur Veda; 4. Rasa or human sentiments from the Atharva Veda. Due to this very distinctive origin, the Natya-shastra is called the fifth Veda, the Natya Veda. This also means that Pathya, recitation; Gita, songs; Rasa and Bhava, human sentiments and emotional states; and Abhinay, histrionic representation or acting, are the principal components of Natya. According to the Indian school of thought, the aim of all art forms including the art of Natya is to create rasa, aesthetic pleasure. 2.4 Aim of Natya-shastra and instructions in it. The aim of the Natya-shastra in all-encompassing approach is to create rasa, and this is achieved by giving detailed instructions to the various categories of personnel concerned and connected with the stage and the stage production. The instructions envelope chiefly: 1. The dramatist in writing of his play, the language to be used by him, the meter to be employed, characteristics of different types of plays and the analysis of their structure; 2. The stage manager and director, their qualifications, the ritual that they follow, their duties, etc. 3. The actor and the actress, their qualifications, physical attributes, proficiency, characterization, casting. 4. The puja and preliminaries, the entire ritualistic aspect connected with the stage presentation according to Hindu thought. 5. The auditorium specifications, construction and the religious ceremony to be conducted for consecration. 6. The green room manager, costume and makeup of the different characters. 7. The music, musical accompaniment for a stage presentation, which include the theory of music in general, singing of songs, playing of various types of instruments, talas, etc. 8. The dance movements appropriate for men and women and their classification. Apart from the instructional part, the Natya-shastra gives the mythical account of the origin of the art and its descent on the earth. A detailed study of the Natya-shastra throws considerable light on the cultural data, the geographical data, languages spoken, costumes worn, and the social conditions prevalent in the country in that era. 2.5 Natya-shastra and dance. From the above very general classification of the scope of the Natya-shastra, a very significant fact emerges that in Bharatha's times the art of Natya included dance, nritta and nritya, and music. In fact, upon analysis of the various Sanskrit plays and the lexicons and grammatical works of that times brings us to an indisputable and definite conclusion that the ancient Indian art of Natya was unthinkable without music and dance included within it. Bharatha himself gives ample proof of this when he describes the creation of the Natya Shastra by Brahma. The theory and technique of Indian dance is an integral part of this conception of drama and cannot be understood without the full realization of the implications of these assertions, which have so aptly been made by Bharatha. Without going into the intricate details of the historical development of dancing and the controversy whether dance emerged as an art form before drama proper or vice versa, it is sufficient to point out here that at a very early stage of development, both these arts fused into one so that, by the time Bharatha wrote his treatise, the dance was very much a part of drama and at many points of contact both the arts were consciously conceived as one. The Natya Shastra thus is neither a treatise on drama alone, as understood by some, nor a treatise on dancing, as believed by quite a few. The technique of Indian dancing has actually to be culled and its principles selected with acute discrimination from the technique of dramaturgy prescribed by Bharatha. Once this is done, dance does emerge as an independent art. It continues nevertheless to be an integral part of drama, indeed, once the most important aspect of what we understand by dance today, what the Sanskrit dramatist understood as Angika Abhinay, is taken out or ignored, the character of Indian drama is lost. Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan 2.6 Creation of Natya Veda. Let us now turn to the aim of the art of Natya as propounded in the Natya Shastra. It is stated in the first chapter of the Natya Shastra and can be summarized as follows, Once upon a time Indra, the lord of the Devas approached Pitamha, Brahma with a respectful request. Jambudvipa, which was peopled by Devas, Danvas, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Rakshasas etc. was in the most miserable state due to the passing off of the Kritayuga and the coming in of the Treta people were growing more and more debased morally, and there was a preponderance of the addiction to sensual pleasures. Desire and greed were the major characteristics of all beings who were also affected with jealousy and anger. Indra requested Brahma to give them a thing of diversion and entertainment, which would be both visible and audible. Since the four Vedas were not to be heard by the Shudras, the new object of entertainment should be accessible to all the four castes, Vamas. This new object should be capable of showing the people what is righteous and what is sinful, what is good and bad, etc. Brahma resorted to yoga and recalled to his mind the four Vedas. He then thought, it will conduce to duty, dhanna, wealth, artha, as well as fame, yasha, will be a collection of good counsel and will provide guidance to people of the future generation in all their activities. With this resolve, the Holy One from his memory of all the Vedas shaped this Natya Veda compiled from the four of them. Dr. Manmohan Ghosh 2.7 The term Natya, reverting back to the origin of the word Natya, its meaning derived from its etymology, e.g. Sanskrit Nrit Prakrit Nat Natya Varix, clearly points to its essential nature as well as its uniqueness in the total scheme of world drama. Thus, the etymology of the word Natya itself leads us to its one unique quality, and that is its heavy dependence on the art of Nritya, dance. It also depended upon Gita, song, and Vadya, instrumental music. The performance of Indian Natya, in its totality, was presented by the means of variegated components like spoken words, vachika, gestures and other bodily movements, angika, costumes and makeup, aharya, the depiction of mental or psychological states, sattvika, songs, gita and dances, nritya. Now, according to the definition of Natya that we have arrived at, it is apparent that Bharatha takes the means of communication of the experiences of the world as Natya, and therefore in this technique of presentation, very naturally it is the form which assumes a greater importance. And so the ancient Indian Natya was of the nature of a spectacle, and so had a preponderance of physical movements for communication, angika. Here, it must be borne in mind that though the two arts, dance and drama, in the Indian tradition were irrevocably interconnected, they did maintain their individuality, and at no given time did they get totally merged into one. But at the same time, their technique of presentation was almost the same, since the same classification given above could be made applicable to dance also. The chief difference between the two arts appears to be that of the components mentioned. Natya would naturally have a greater use of the spoken words, costumes and make-up, since it conveyed a story or a plot through a number of actors, whereas dance would not put so much importance on the spoken words, which would take a subordinate position to the physical movements, which are, very naturally, the soul of dance. Thus, the difference between dance and drama is one of degree and not of kind. Thus, the principles that govern the technique of classical Indian drama, Natya, are the same as those which govern the technique of Indian dance. 2.8 Technique of Natya. To understand the technique of Natya and various components, the technical terms used may be explained very briefly as follows. A. Dharmi, modes of presentation. There are two dharmis mentioned as Lokdharmi and Natyadharmi. The Lokdharmi is the realistic mode of presentation where the natural behavior of people is represented on the stage. The Natyadharmi is the highly conventionalized or stylized mode of presentation. Thus, the former appears to be more natural, while the latter definitely is studied and preconceived as well as pre-planned. B. Vritti, styles of composition. Bharatha lists 4 vrittis in the Natya Shastra. The verbal, Bharti, the grand, Satvati, the energetic, Arbhati, and the graceful, Kashiki. C. Abhinay, type of acting. This can also be called imitation or mimicry or simple representation. Let us study the etymology of this all-important word, Abhinayar, 2 words, Ni, Naya, Abhinay, conduct, guide, conduct to, represent on the stage, mimic. As already discussed, Bharatha prescribes 4 types of Abhinay, Angika, Vachika, Aharya and Satvik. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.